Hey, welcome to Film Fanatics. My name is Dan.
My name is Justin.
And I'm Joe.
This week, Chris Hemsworth is back as the Huntsman in Winter's War, plus two music biopics starring A-listers, one focusing on the day Elvis Presley met Richard Nixon, and the other on the life of Miles Davis. First up, though, we're going to talk about the prequel/sequel to Snow White and the Huntsman from a few years back. Joe, tell us about The Huntsman, Winter's War.
Well, to compensate for my lack of viewing this week, I wrote quite a bit about this one.
Oh, okay.
Because I have a lot to say. So, prepare.
Well, I can't wait.
Prepare your comments and let me get all this out.
Is it Frankenstein part 2 or what?
I don't think it'll be that amazing, but there were things I thought about. So, we'll see. It is the directing debut of this person, Cedric Nicholas Troyan, which is a very interesting name. I think it kind of emulates the movie in a way. Who acted apparently as the visual effects supervisor on the first movie, and this really made a lot of sense to me. Now, the film stars Hemsworth and Theron and Nick Frost as well. They reprised their roles, but joining them are Emily Blunt as the Snow Queen and Jessica Chastain as the Huntsman's warrior love interest.
Two of my favorites.
Well, yes, I mean, really great cast, and it's funny, though, when you think about it, because they have the main character who is the Huntsman,
Yep.
Chris Hemsworth, but everyone's a huntsman because they all work for the Snow Queen, including the huntswomen, but they never refer to them as that. I guess she would be a huntsman as well, but they never actually use that title. So, kind of a simple little thing they gloss over. But, whatever. It is truly the Huntsman Winter's War. The Huntsman's War? Huntsman. So many many titles within this movie, which leads me to my next word, which would be confusing. Because this movie is a prequel, which it was marketed as, for about the first 10 minutes, about the Snow Queen raising an army, but then it jumps to a sequel after the first film, years later. So basically, the first 10 minutes was just an extended flashback.
Yeah, I can't remember a movie that did that.
Yeah, I'm like, so...
300 Rise of an Empire, for starters.
I never saw the first one, so
true, but
that I don't know.
That wasn't as long as this one.
Well, no.
It could literally fool you. I mean, if you're not paying attention, it would be confusing. So you're like, wait a minute, so this isn't the time, and I was thinking, it took me a while to get, okay, so this is a sequel to something that happened before, but then, Snow White's kingdom, Snow White's here. Okay, so this is
but she's not really here.
She exists.
She exists. They pretend that she's important, but she's not really important.
I mean, it's really the Huntsman's story, which is fine, because he was pretty much the most popular thing about the first one, so I get it. But even so, I want to say that I like a good fairy tale, high fantasy story like this with a dark edge. And the best things about this movie are, of course, some of the special effects. I won't say all, but some of the special effects are really good.
Towards the end, they were really cool.
Towards the end, with the effects with the Charlize Theron's witch, and some of the fighting is cool. But there are some things I didn't like how they did the goblins was like sort of a...
Very weird.
I mean, I don't want to say it's the worst thing I've ever seen, but when you think of a goblin, you think like of an orcish type thing from Lord of the Rings, and this was kind of a black gorilla... ram thing, and
It's basically an orc with horns, but
it didn't even look like a standard orc. It was somehow more bland. It was stuff like that I was iffy about.
It's true.
But the costume design was cool. I particularly like the magic associated with the Evil Queen, like I said, and I also think, like you said, Dan. I mean, the cast is a great one. I mean, there's so many awesome people in this movie, and I like the fact that they are doing their best to elevate some very limited material. Now, I love the chemistry of the actors. I mean, the characters are all potentially very interesting, but there's just not enough time with any of them in particular. There's just a whole lot of periods of scenes that just drag it out, where a story would be much more beneficial. I love Charlize as the villain, but she's really not the main villain of this movie. So, once again, this leads me to be angry about advertising, which, in this case, more than pretty much any other trailer that I've seen in a long time, is just basically lying.
Well, because they really needed you to get that this is another Huntsman movie, but because they don't have Kristen Stewart to promote, they're like, other than Hemsworth, hey, remember Theron from the first one.
There's another
She's
A-lister
here too.
Exactly. And here I mentioned, they're hyping her up too much, which I do get from a marketing point, but it also really hurts the movie because any of the dramatic...
She's barely in it.
She barely is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And any of the dramatic twists they try to pull, which are pretty obvious anyway, are made even more obvious because we've seen everything in the trailer.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Here's what I find about this movie.
Okay.
How are you going to have three of the hottest young actresses out there? You've got Theron, Blunt, Chastain, three of my favorites.
Double entendre, I guess, there.
They're hot, and they're hot in the A-list sense.
Very good.
And this movie, like, when I heard these three names, I wouldn't think, oh, they're going to be in a
Huntsman.
fantasy action movie. No, they're going to be in some, awesome drama,
Something like that, yeah.
Chastain, I don't think, has done any kind of action. I mean, Theron obviously had Mad Max. Blunt's done a few.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a Chastain is the action lady. Mm-hmm. She does a good job here, but...
Would you say The Debt counts?
The Debt? Oh, I forget about that movie. I don't know. I don't even remember her performance.
Fair enough.
But Hemsworth, I feel like, outside of the Marvel Universe, just hasn't shown me any range. He's always Hemsworth being Hemsworth. Mm-hmm. Oh, here's Hemsworth at sea battling Moby Dick. Mm-hmm. Here's Hemsworth, battling the Red Dawn.
But what about when he's rushing with the car, though? He showed you something then, right?
Oh, that's true. I did forget about Drive. Yes, or Rush, whatever.
Rush. Same thing.
Drive. That was
same movie,
Gosling. Right? You're right. He was good in Rush, and that's an excellent movie.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it's the script then, because Rush had a good script. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's just not picking good projects. I don't know.
I think it depends more on the director. Like Ron Howard, I feel like has a better idea of how Hemsworth works. Obviously, he also did in the Heart of the Sea.
Right, he did Heart of the Sea too, which was a fail. Mm.
So maybe it is the script to varying degrees, but I also think directing has a part to that as well, because he can act. It's just a matter of can he get out of Hemsworth mode.
But see, and here's again where I'll disagree. Not only did Howard do both of those movies, one good, one very bad, well, very average.
I was going to say.
But the Marvel movies are directed by different people, and he's good in them.
Some more so than others, but fair enough.
I think he's pretty consistent.
I think he's pretty solid as Thor.
I think most people
whether the movie is good or not is debatable.
Let me ask you this though, guys, because I feel like I don't know if he's always Hemsworth, at least here, because I don't think he was Hemsworth here. I think he was just Thor light here. Honestly.
Agreed.
I think they're all shades of Thor, which is why Rush worked. I mean, it was Thor. You're right, 50 Shades of Thor.
Black Hat wasn't Thor. No, kidding.
Oh, let's not even talk about Black Hat. That was a fail movie.
That was terrible.
All the way around.
I don't know if it was his fault though, to be honest. I don't
no, but he added nothing to it.
No, it's
I thought the beginning was fine. I thought the end was fine. The middle was very boring.
True.
What is the deal with this movie though being Frozen? Did anyone else pick up on that?
Oh, yeah, because after obvious. Frozen, everybody wants to be Frozen as a cash grab.
But how friggin' obvious?
Oh,
Oh yeah, very obvious.
Oh yeah, no.
Well, let me ask you though. I don't know how this works. Are like the Grimm's tales? Are they like in the public domain?
Yeah, Grimm is public domain.
Because I was thinking with the Snow, is there a Disney Snow White specific thing that they could be infringing on? Because
I doubt it.
They're doing. I guess this is their answer to live action Disney movies. Then
I guess
like this is they're doing their darker Snow White. Now they're expanding on it.
I guess to varying degrees, but sure.
I wouldn't say so necessarily.
I think it's the same thing, sort of as what was it, Hansel and Gretel, the Witch Hunters, or Jack the Giant Slayer. I mean, they're all basically trying to do a live action fairy tale.
That's the thing, though. I would normally say it's just them trying to do a fairy tale, make it darker, but Snow White and the Snow Queen too. It's pretty obvious.
Oh yeah, no.
Which didn't bother me, but it was pretty obvious what it was.
It was definitely a Frozen cash grab. But,
yeah.
No, but I'd say for me, the biggest question I have for this is, was this necessary? And I think that kind of permeates throughout the entire thing. It's just so raw and kind of thrown together. Admittedly, I thought it played out a little bit better than it should. The production values are obviously pretty good. Costumes are great. Visual effects, little hit or miss, but I'd say it's about...
They're definitely varying.
They do vary a lot.
I'd say it's about 70-30. Like, some scenes near the end are really, really good. Others early on, not so great. But what really brought this grade down for me significantly wasn't necessarily the fact that it was so thrown together. It was the fact that the third act is so unbelievably incoherent. Where I have honestly... I'm not entirely sure what happened in the conclusion of this movie. Because there's like random plot twists, character reveals, final battle that's kind of anticlimactic, and then ending. But not really the ending as by virtue of narrator.
Bored Liam Neeson?
Bored Liam Neeson. But let's talk about that actually.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought that up. Can we say Lord of the Rings ripoff?
I mean,
This sounds awfully similar to the one
that's
where had to
standard.
rule them
That's
all.
fairly standard.
That's pretty standard fantasy stuff. I was okay. It's not exactly like The Ring because
I mean, all they had to do is say, "Let's cast the mirror into a volcano," and I would say, "Okay, we're getting a little ridiculous here."
You're not wrong, but I think that's more of a nitpick, to be honest. Well, how about the acting? What do you guys feel about the acting overall? He didn't really mention that.
Well, I mean, the acting's fine. I mean, other than Hemsworth, the acting from the three women was fine.
I was going to say, on Theron and Blunt's side, I think they did okay. The really, really, really thick accented mumbling, though, from Hemsworth and Chastain, there were at least 5 separate instances where, I'll be honest with you, gentlemen, I have absolutely no idea what they were saying.
I didn't notice it from Chastain. Hemsworth, I did.
They're very Irish, it's pretty obvious what they're going for.
No, but he's saying the mumbling. I mean, I didn't...
among other things.
Wasn't that bad.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty bad.
We're talking
okay,
like...
well, I didn't think so.
I mean, it's not Bridges bad, but it's pretty bad.
I thought it was just kind
of...
From
Hemsworth, yes. From Chastain, I was fine with it. She's a better actress than he is an actor.
Yeah.
So that didn't really bother me. But I'll tell you what, though. I remember enjoying Snow White and the Huntsman.
Okay.
When I saw it. I thought, good movie. Kind of put it away in my mind. Never really thought about it again.
Like everyone else.
And that's the thing. I couldn't tell you really one thing that even happens in that movie.
Charlize Theron's evil.
Well, I know that.
Right.
Like, I know the basic, connect the dot points. But as far as specifics, I don't really remember much other than the mirror doing the cool visual thing. And that's why I don't think that this was necessary.
No.
Now, I don't think, Justin, that's necessarily always a bad thing. Joe and I think, can agree The Amazing Spider-Man was far from necessary, but it was good. But, so, just unnecessary itself doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad or a bad idea. But if nobody really recalls the first one all that fondly, and the second one stinks, then you've got a problem. I think we get a lot of sequels that we don't necessarily need.
No, because Hollywood likes making money, but
some of them can be enjoyable.
They can. But honestly, this was just one of those, was there really this bustling franchise to begin with? I mean, I see where the money was coming from with the idea was...
But a franchise, though.
But a franchise was a little bit out of the question. I think this could have been a one-and-done deal.
Yeah, well, let's get to the grades.
I thought it was all right. C-.
Okay, it's a C for me.
D+.
All right, well, Justin, you're up next with Elvis and Nixon.
Outraged by the growing rebellious movements and trends in the 60s, Elvis, played here by Michael Shannon, takes it upon himself to seek the president's, in this case Nixon, played by Kevin Spacey, his approval to become an undercover, quote, federal agent at large. Although laughed at by nearly every official, he finds help in his good friend Jerry Schilling, and eventually manages to find his way into the Oval Office. Johnny Knoxville also stars. I think the first thing that I noticed almost immediately upon said character's introduction is Michael Shannon is not Elvis. That honor will forever go to Bruce Campbell. Long live Bubba Hotep. But the best thing I found with this movie was it handles the overall quirky scenario with a lot of sincerity. It believes in itself. It takes itself seriously enough to have fun with it. I think, for the most part, that works to certain degrees. I think, in terms of focusing on the drama of celebrity, trying to be taken seriously, the reminder that celebrities are still people is really interesting. There's some smart observations on that aspect. The problem with this movie is when it tries to take the comedy angle a little too heavily, because this movie is nowhere, and I repeat, nowhere near as funny as it really, really thinks it is. The climactic meeting between Elvis and Nixon, as the title does suggest, is quirky, but I wouldn't say laugh out loud hysterical like it truly thinks it wants, like it's truly striving for. There's some good interplay, there's a couple amusing bits, but I never found myself truly captivated by the humorous banter. Instead, I felt like I was watching Shannon get completely and utterly outclassed by a spot-on Nixon impersonation by Kevin Spacey. But I don't know, Dan. Where do you stand on this one?
Yeah, Joe didn't get to see this one, so this will just be the two of us. But I think you've got right that it's not all that laugh out loud funny. But you said something about its dramatic components, being the better part. I don't actually think this movie takes itself very seriously at all. I think it goes for laughs pretty much throughout. Not that they're doing joke setup.
No.
But I don't think there's a lot of seriousness in this movie. Now, I do like the observations. I agree about, Elvis's celebrity and what sort of an icon he was and that kind of thing. But even there wasn't really a lot of, really dramatic moments. Everything is sort of played very broadly.
Well, what I meant by the serious aspects of it is it believes in its own scenario. It's not trying to like up the ridiculousness to the point of completely crossing the threshold of believability.
It knows what it is.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, it does know what it is. I agree, I guess, that it tries a little too hard for laughs. I did get some laughs out of it.
Oh, no, as did I.
I can't deny that. I thought Michael Shannon was god-awful as Elvis. He had no business being cast in this film. He doesn't look the part at all. He doesn't sound the part at all. I'll give him that he learned some of the mannerisms. He got some of the karate stuff down. But honestly, I've never seen a worse Elvis on screen. Jack White in the Walk Hard, the 2-minute scene he has, was way better Elvis than this guy is. Now, Spacey, I'll disagree with you there, though, because he sounded the part.
He did.
Had the mannerisms to a T.
Frank Underwood.
But he's Frank Underwood at playing Richard Nixon.
Well,
you never... And the makeup people tried... They made his nose bigger. They gave him some jowls a little bit.
I knew it.
Well, you two are the
they did his
House of Cards
forehead.
fans, so that's...
But yeah, I mean, it's...
I knew that even before. I was just like, it's Frank Underwood.
When you compare him to Langella and Frost Nixon, or some of the other ones we've seen, he doesn't come close. Now, for this sort of broad story, I'll give it a pass. But to me, the impression, quote-unquote, of the movie is Colin Hanks as Nixon's secretary. He is his father to a T at this point. With the glasses they had him in and the short haircut, God, was he Tom Hanks in this movie. That, to me, was the impression to go see this for.
Huh.
You didn't mention what's-his-face, Alex Pettyfer, who is awful. I
thought he'd be worse, honestly.
Who's that?
He is the kid in Magic Mike.
Oh.
And he's also 4 in I Am Number 4.
He's all right, I guess.
He is a really bad actor, and not only that, but they had this subplot with his girlfriend that is completely pointless.
Goes nowhere.
It goes nowhere.
So much anger.
But what is interesting is, and we'll get to Miles Ahead here in a moment,
no.
but of the 3 movies, with all of the flaws I just mentioned, this was the most entertaining one. I enjoyed it the most from a just viewer standpoint. It has a lot of flaws, and boy, was he a bad Elvis. But I like that it didn't take itself too seriously. I like that it sort of states up front, look, we don't know precisely what happened, with this talk, but here's how it might have went. One thing, I don't know how you feel about this, Justin, or, if you're all that familiar with the Elvis lore, but, the classic part about this meeting is that he's trying to be the drug task, person, and he was whacked out of his mind when he had this meeting. And you can sort of infer by their interactions that he's not all on the level.
No.
But they didn't delve into any of that, which I thought was interesting.
No. So Elvis at the time was a lot more trouble than they paint him in this movie.
Well, they don't paint him as troubled at all in the movie.
No.
So, yeah. I mean, you can see the womanizing a little bit, although he doesn't follow up on any of it. But you can see that women are literally throwing themselves at him. But, he was whacked out of his mind on pills and I'm sure many other things.
That's why he died.
When they took this meeting. Yeah, I mean, he died only 6 or 7 years after this meeting took place. I wasn't quite sure how to feel about that. I mean, I think it's fairly common knowledge that he was.
Yeah.
But like you said, infer is probably a good word. I mean, you can tell something's up.
Oh, yeah.
But they don't touch on it one iota in the movie.
No, instead they're sort of taking the angle of, like, he's just sort of naturally a little bit out of his mind.
Yeah. Like a goofball.
Yeah.
As opposed to the massive irony of him wanting to, be the task force person.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was decent. I give it a C+.
I'm actually going to match that, C+.
Yeah, I think the performance from Spacey, certainly, and I thought Knoxville was good as well. He was fine. And the script really carried it. But boy, I wish they got somebody else to play Elvis. All right, well, finally we have Miles Ahead, as I just recently mentioned. And this was directed, co-written by, and starring Don Cheadle. And it's a biographical film about jazz musician Miles Davis, focusing mainly on a portion later in Davis's life where his music output was on a hiatus, but he made a tape in his home studio that Columbia Records was very eager to get their hands on, as was a shady Rolling Stone reporter played by Ewan McGregor, who in the film sort of befriends Davis. Now, Cheadle as a director is all over the place. There's a B story here that we get in flashbacks with his girlfriend/wife, and they not only don't flow with the main story, but there's literally no concept of when anything is taking place. The flashbacks or the present. We get sort of an idea that it's probably in the 70s at some point. Flashbacks, I don't know, but there's no time frame for anything that happens in this movie. And more to that, with the time frame, I guess you could say, is there's this closing bit where Miles Davis is on a stage with his band, and first of all, he's got a jacket on with a hashtag on it.
Yeah, that was weird.
And
social music, man.
Hashtag social music. I'm not promoting that, okay? After this, and I saw it with Joe and one of our other friends, and I had sworn Miles Davis was dead, and I thought, well, if he's doing a concert with this hashtag on his back, maybe he's alive. Oh, he died in 1991.
Yeah.
So obviously that's not a thing. And then at the end of the movie, it says, Miles Davis, July or whatever it was, 1929 to nothing.
Because he's still alive. His music's
because
still
he's
alive,
still
man.
alive in spirit. His music. I thought that was one of the most careless things I've ever seen in a biopic.
That's kind of hilarious.
Misleading the audience to think he's still alive.
Well,
that made no sense.
I think I'm guessing this is directed at people that know a lot about Miles Davis, though.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, not me. I'll
which
admit.
Cheadle did a great job of portraying. That was by far the highlight of this movie. But if you know about Miles Davis, maybe you also know that none of this movie even exists. It's a total fabrication. The Rolling Stone guy doesn't exist. Now, there was a tape. He was arrested, outside one of his gigs at one point. I assume the stuff with the girlfriend's probably legit. But the main part of this movie is all fake. And it is played off as a real story. And what is happening?
I guess it's just some sort of it's a giant tribute, is what it is, and I guess
it is. It's clearly a passion project for Cheadle, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. But
I guess he's trying to, kind of sort of mirror the music with the on film sort of thing. It's more about the notes and the beat rather than
trying to tell a story with attitude.
Yeah,
and
I think
obviously
he's trying something experimental.
And obviously they're going with the whole Davis isn't exactly right in the head, so
yeah, I could see it emulating that a little bit. I mean, it's not the first time somebody's done a movie as a tribute to somebody that's, necessarily cohesive all the way through.
Need we talk about The Butler?
I'm pretty sure, exactly. That one was a lot of...
At least 5 different subplots.
That's a good example, but The Butler is told, I feel, more like in vignettes. Oh, yeah. You see him with the different presidents and...
Yeah. I was trying to think of, another example, but, there are certain films that might follow,
Rudy has a lot of BS, too.
Rudy, American Splendor.
I mean, the movie that we're going to be covering for this month, Braveheart, is full of fabrications.
Yeah, that movie is practically not even true. And that's biographical.
Okay.
So sometimes it's more of a artistic.
But these are
tribute.
from Braveheart's from people that lived a long time ago.
True.
Well,
And so are some 300 obviously, and some of these other things. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to see a music biopic. I mean, look at the ones we've had recently that were very good. Love and Mercy, Compton. We've had quite a few that I think have elevated the material.
I see what you're going for, and I don't really disagree, but I don't think that every biopic has to follow this straightforward standard. I think if you want to do a passion project that's more of an idea about the spirit of the person and his music rather than the facts, that's what Don Cheadle wanted to do.
I think it would be more appropriate to state that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, Get On Up, I think we can all admit, wasn't a great movie, but everything in it happened.
For the most part,
within Hollywoodization.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
I'm with you on the fact that the chronology is a little frenetic, but I also think that straight out the gate with these sort of behind the music like prologue, he was sort of trying to play that up like, okay, this is not going to be your typical biopic. It's going to be everywhere and anywhere, and I think in some ways it does work. Like some of the shots are really cool. I thought the surrealistic angles were effective at some points and a little odd at others. But I always sort of found myself intrigued by it. But I think the real glue of this movie comes from Cheadle himself, obviously, as Miles Davis. His
performance is great.
He is definitely in this mode. He commits to it. It's awesome to see him work. And I think it gives a very interesting perspective of what does it mean to be a celebrity when you're out of practice. And I think that says a lot about it. Like, how long does talent actually stay? And there's a lot of interesting things to be said about that, particularly in this movie. I think even though Ewan McGregor's character was definitely a fabrication, I called bull almost instantly. I think McGregor played him well, and I think he plays off Cheadle really well over the course of this movie.
Yeah, they have okay chemistry.
He's running around basically in what looks like a robe. You can tell he's definitely not played in a while, which is why when everyone's in this sort of, hey, play some music.
Well, I mean, I definitely agree that there's some timeline stuff, but I always just kind of figured the stuff that was happening in the present was all happening within the space of a short period of time. I mean, because it...
When?
To varying degrees, but...
Well, the the tape was 78, so I'm assuming late 70s, early 80s, because it's before his comeback.
Yeah.
Whatever. I know nothing about Miles Davis, so to be fair. So I'll be completely honest. So I was just judging it based on this. And so I thought that part of his life was the most intriguing, which was Don Cheadle, as we all said, just played it amazingly. Mm-hmm. I thought this character was interesting, this person was interesting, and I liked that part of the story. And it definitely doesn't tell you a lot of stuff, but then it goes back to the show don't tell. And by those constant flashbacks, we get a general idea of what caused his downfall.
I mean, the problem with that, though, is I feel like the flashbacks are supposed to complement it, but it often feels like we're watching two entirely different movies.
And that's true. And the thing is, though, even though I do get it, we get the general idea, but because they don't delve into details, we just say we get it. Can we stop flashing back? Because those flashbacks were repetitive and annoying.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're easily the worst part of the movie. But if you took that out of it and it just focused on, they had one or two flashbacks, and then everything else was in this present time, expanding on those things a little bit, that's fine. I mean, other than that, some of this real stuff, mimicking the jazzy elements of improvisation, I thought it was cool. I think the movie definitely has a lot of life to it. I mean, you can feel it, and I think if it's trying to emulate the passion he has for this musician and his music, it feels pretty good. There was enough of a story to keep it together with a lot of style. I just admit I wish that there was a lot more we did learn.
It's definitely on the more experimental side of things.
It is, but I've also seen far more experimental movies, so
that
it's
are probably
much weirder,
less linear, but more.
I mean, I'm not gonna say it's
Lynch.
It's not David Lynch here, or Malick, or
Yeah, it's not that level, but
no.
I think some moments worked. I think that a lot of the stuff bothered me, but I don't think it bothered me as much as it did for you, Dan. I mean, I like the style he was going for.
Most of it didn't work for me. Really, his performance is the only thing that did.
And he's silly.
If it wasn't for the whole
horrible.
If it wasn't for the cut into the credits, I would be okay, just disregarding that.
If it was normally just if it wasn't an older Miles Davis, there I was thinking, wow, he aged really well. No, it's obviously Don Cheadle. Yeah. Wait a minute, that was confusing.
Yeah.
Very confusing.
And if you're just saying this is a tribute, just get out of the get-up and just do like a
Yeah.
tribute covered thing.
Simple as that.
Now that would have been fine, but why did they?
I don't know why.
Because his music lives on, man. He's 1930. What was it? Like
1929. I think
1929 to forever.
to forever.
It was hashtag social music.
I just think there's a lot of better ways you could have done that.
I'm not saying. I mean, it's not good, but it's kind of.
For example, not pretending that the man's still alive.
You get what they're doing, and there is. I could see it being touching for some people, and for me personally, there was definitely that. Just a little bit of awesomely bad. Like, that was just so...
It was
hilarious.
It fell into that category of, like, good in theory versus execution.
But it was just like, that's so silly.
It's incredibly silly.
But I know what he was trying to do. You know, I get it.
I feel like his heart was in the right place. It was just didn't pan out the way
And I
he
guess,
wanted
Dan, my thought about it, guys, is that I'm just being forgiving for him, in a way. Because I just think, I get it, man. There's so much love.
Not me.
Dan, there's too much love, man.
Hate.
You can't... No, for... Hashtag social hate or something, yeah.
All right. Well, what's your grade, Joe?
I kind of liked it. It was a B-.
All right. It's a C- for me.
B- as well.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for the show this week. Plenty of minisodes for you guys to enjoy. We've got the Star Trek ones weekly. We also have our April old classic minisode up, which is the spring cleaning. And in May, we're doing Jodie Foster month. In honor of her directing this Money Monster movie that's about to come out. So if you have a suggestion for Listener's Choice Week for Jodie Foster Month doing acting or directing, then we'd love to hear that.
Give us the beaver.
No, I don't want to do the beaver.
Hey, if they legitimately request it,
I mean,
if
that's the only one we get, then yes, we have to do it, but hopefully not. And of course, Joe, you just hit 2,000 subscribers on your channel. That is very exciting.
Congratulations, sir.
Yeah.
Got tons of things planned for that, for sure. But I'd like to promote you guys more over there. We got to get ourselves up here, too.
Yeah, for sure. And if you guys listening have not subscribed yet, go ahead and do that on our channel. And if you haven't subscribed to Merlin's channel, go ahead and do that as well, of course.
Always.
And you can check out our 5-word reviews on Facebook, which is Film Fanatics with an exclamation point, and the Twitter feed at Film Fanatics Pod. And that's going to do it for this week. Thanks so much for listening.